The light fades with death's cold embrace. You've already been zipped and tagged. Struggle as you might, it will not help. No one can break out of the body bag. Here to oversee the autopsy, your hosts, Chris Thomas and Broke Rider Dave.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to Body Bag Podcast. I'm Chris Thomas, and with me, as always, Broke Rider Dave.
How we doing, everybody?
Guys, if you're listening to the podcast, if you want some quality content and some good podcasting, then stop listening to us. What you need to be doing is going over to the Scream Podcast with Ryan Showers, and we have the man himself, straight from his own podcast, the Scream Podcast, where they talk everything Scream. Ryan Showers, thanks for coming to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here talking about Scream.
Yeah, we're excited you're here.
Dave, like I said, I'm going to very much let you take the reins on this one, because I'm a novice, and you guys are very much, this is y'all's wheelhouse. You guys love this series.
All right. So let's start off talking about the Scream Podcast with Ryan Showers. What made you want to start a Scream-specific podcast?
Well, it's funny. My podcast actually happened really hard and fast, like in May. I had been a mainstay, like a main contributor to different websites and podcasts over the years about movies in general and about like the Oscars and awards and such. And I got to a point where it really wasn't making me happy anymore, but I had cultivated so many skills at podcasting and I had a joy for it. And so it was, I was just thinking one day, like, why can't there be a podcast about Scream? A Scream podcast would be so cool. There are millions of podcasts about Star Wars or Marvel or whatever else. And, why can't we do the exact same thing?
That's a good point, because when I heard that you were doing that you guys do a Scream specific podcast, the first thought in my mind was, well, is there enough content in a Scream movie to warrant a bunch of episodes or a podcast dedicated to Scream? But you just mentioning right now, I mean, they do it for Star Wars, Star Trek, and all sorts. Any movie you can make a podcast about if it has a large enough following.
Well, and that was kind of my, I wouldn't say that was an obstacle, because it was never, I considered it, but it was never a problem for me, because, these movies have been baking in my mind for the past 20 years. And I love them so much, and there's so many different ways to analyze things about them, especially because this series is about the characters and not really about the killer. There's just a million different angles to go from, and because these movies are about pop culture in a way too, and about feminism, there is just so much to mine. And I have at least 3 seasons planned, and I'm every day I get a new idea, or a new person approaching me with an idea. I don't foresee myself running out of things to say about Scream.
But that's a good point, because because it is a pop culture type movie that makes fun of horror movie tropes and is very meta. You can make as many of them as you want, and it just changes with the times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, I think the big thing with me is with my show and about Scream. First of all, I love Scream so much. I love all 4 movies. I really, truly am enthusiastic about them. So when you combine that with my background with film criticism and analyzing art and the culture, because in my undergrad, I had a communications and part women's studies and political science major. So I have a very unique insight into how to analyze things, if that makes sense, to analyze art. So the goal of my podcast has been to kind of unite the film critic and the fan, and really just engage with the material. And it's been really successful. And I think it's something that people, especially fans, want to listen to. At least they have wanted to listen to as the build up to the new movie. I'm not sure. I hope that I can retain everyone's interest after the new movie comes out. But yeah.
Yeah, that definitely comes through, because I've been listening to your podcast, really enjoying it.
Thank you.
So for our fans who haven't listened to you yet, what is the episode you would recommend for them to get into your podcast?
What's a good starter, I guess?
Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
So I think each of my episodes are unique. By the time that people will be listening to this, there will be 31 episodes out. I would recommend. There's an episode about feminism that I think it's episode 8 that I think does a great job of looking at the Scream series through a feminist lens. There's also an episode about like, especially for like maybe your audience, like I think your audience would really enjoy, I think it's episode 28 or 29. It's about the slasher revival of the genre in 2021, and like how movies like Halloween and Scream and Candyman and the Chucky TV show are kind of reinvigorating this genre.
I was actually scrolling through your episodes, and that was the one that stuck out to me that I was probably that I was gonna jump on next, actually.
Because we've had that conversation multiple times on this podcast about slashers coming back.
Oh, cool. Well, so you guys get it. Like, and like that episode's fun because so many of my episodes so far have been like a one-on-one, like with me and somebody else. But that episode is fun because it's a panel, and I'm kind of moving toward a more panel like discussion. So there are 3 people on that. But also, you know, especially if you've seen the new Scream movie, I think it's definitely worth checking out. By the time this episode airs, I'm gonna have I have an interview with the directors and the producer of the new movie coming out. So I'm really excited about that, and you guys should definitely check that out.
Actually, the timing will be perfect because I think it comes out on Saturday. Am I correct? Is that what you were saying, Dave?
Oh
no, the new Scream will come out next Friday. Yeah,
next Friday, which is when this drops. So
yeah,
it's all going to be dropping the same day.
Well, my episode with the directors will be coming out. It'll be coming out on Tuesday, the 11th of January. So, I definitely check that out. Like it was such a full circle moment for me. I never in a million years, back when Scream 5 was announced, I never thought that I would have the opportunity to hang out on, on a Zoom call with Matt and Tyler and Chad for 2 hours. So it's a surreal experience.
That was an amazing opportunity when Dave told me that those 2 were on your podcast. I was like, whoa, that's a good episode right there.
I'm friends with Marianne Maddalena, who was one of the producers of the original trilogy and of Scream 4. She was Wes Craven's filmmaking partner. So after Matt, one of the directors of Scream 5, he followed my account back in July, and we had started chatting here and there, and he expressed interest about coming on, but he said, "Oh, just let's wait till closer to the original." I'm sorry. Let's wait until closer to the release of the new movie. I was like, okay. I was like, that's never going to happen. But I had an episode with Marianne. She came on for the 25th anniversary, and that episode was a huge thing for me. And actually, I think it is my best episode, barring, the interview with Matt and Tyler and Chad, the new, that I'm referencing. But after my interview with Marianne came out, we got really serious about it, and I got involved with the publicist, and we made it happen. So, and the best news I have about Matt and Tyler and Chad is they are coming back to my show after the movie comes out, because they are dying to talk about spoilers. And I was going to ask them if they would come back because we couldn't really talk about spoilers. We were talking a lot about the original films, but at the end of the episode, as people will hear, they say, "Ryan, do you mind if we come back?" I was like, "Do I mind?" Please.
That is awesome. So in this interview, like, I kind of got the feeling that Matt and Tyler are really big fans of the series.
Oh yeah.
Did this interview make you like even more excited for the release of the new movie?
I wouldn't. I don't know. That's a funny question. I would say my anticipation couldn't have been any higher for it. I'm just so excited for it. I'm so excited to see what they do with the characters. But I have to say, I appreciate them more as human beings. Like, they are very human, humble guys. There's nothing put on about them. There's nothing, superficial about them. The one thing that I think is a really great thing about having them take over the mantle of Wes Craven is the fact that they genuinely love the series, and they're kind of wonky about it. They they know very specific things about the sequels, which I love. Like, I wouldn't have wanted somebody who just likes the original and not really that doesn't care about the storylines and the mythology, and I think that they do.
That this new one's not just like a cash grab type thing, that the people actually care about the subject.
Oh, 1000%. Like, I think that the writers, from what I know, took great care in crafting this script. And they spoke about that at length. But Matt and Tyler said on the interview to me, and they've said it to other people, but this movie has Easter eggs baked into it based on your knowledge of Scream. So if you are a super fan, you will just see like little references to Scream 3 here or Scream 4 there. And like, it's a very cool thing. Like, I think it's in great hands, and I think they're coming back for a reason, and they're coming back for an urgent reason, if that makes sense. This is not a cash grab.
Dave, make sure when you go see it next week to bring your notepad and paper and jot down all the things that you catch.
I might do that the second time around. The first time, I'm just gonna
we'll
go for the ride and enjoy it.
Because we'll have to do our own spoil-free review of it after we see it on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've actually I'm for my review for my episode covering the new movie. I'm just gonna do maybe the first 20 minutes. I'm gonna do spoiler free, and then after that will be spoilers. I feel like we've been, at least in my show, we've been dancing around the plot and the spoilers of the new movie for months, and we are ready to talk about what happens to our people.
So you already have inside knowledge of what's going to happen in this new movie?
No, but I don't know how to answer this without. I mean, as a Scream fan, there's a lot of things that I instinctually can tell from the trailer. Running a Scream centric content, an entity. People have sent me a lot of quote spoilers, or they've commented on my Instagram posts like, oh, this happens, that happens, and I have to delete the comment. It's all wear and tear. I'm going in just I'm gonna let the film wash over me. So
people don't like to let people enjoy the movies for themselves nowadays. As of late, it's been like that for the last Spider-Man movie, where you can't go on social media. Can't go on social media. You have to
all over Facebook.
Staying away from social media is tough to just, if you don't want to get spoiled for anything.
Oh yeah, and that's something that the Scream community is really struggling with. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm not spoiler phobic like other people are, but I'm not hunting out. I'm not seeking them out. The things I've found out about the movie, they've either come to me, and I've just kind of passively taken the information in. But no, I'm just excited for this period of the anticipation to be over. I'm tired of everybody talking about spoilers. The fear of spoilers. I just want everyone to see the movie and enjoy it and talk about it.
When people throw out spoilers too, and then you see a lot of a certain kind of feedback, whether it be negative or positive. I want to go into a movie not knowing what anybody has to say about it, at all. Oh, this movie's been hyped up so much that you overhype it in your mind, or everybody says this movie's trash, so I'm going into it with expecting it to be trash.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gets me with spoilers. I can enjoy a movie even if I know what's going to happen into it, but it affects my mentality going in of all right, this is what everybody says. So
very much what happened with Halloween Kills this year.
Yeah.
Last year when it came out. So many people trashed the movie, so...
I
mean, I did kind of too, but I still liked it.
I really enjoyed it.
There is something to that. There is something to seeing a movie without hearing anything about it, and then it just blowing you away. I feel like that's the best feeling in the world, actually.
Yeah, and and while I was watching Scream 2, it had been years since I'd seen the first Scream movie. Because it came out in 95, so I would have been 4. I was too young for the Scream.
It's 96.
Yeah, well, no, for the first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. No, I would have been 5 when it came out in 96. Yeah. So yeah. I would have been too young for that franchise, but watching it now, this is right up my alley of stuff that I would like. If I was a teenager in the 90s, this would have been right up my alley.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you discovered and are enjoying the sequels and the series now that you have the opportunity to see them.
I always get into things way after they're popular, but that just means I can just binge it at any given moment.
Yeah, I mean that's what I did to get ready for this interview. Is I watched Scream 1 through 4 yesterday. Great way to spend the day,
Well, so where do you guys live?
He lives in Indiana and I live in Virginia.
Okay, so so you guys I live in Pennsylvania, so what my favorite thing to do in like the December, January time is to watch Scream the original trilogy on like days that it snows and to get pizza and just enjoy like the wintry weather and like my original trilogy. Like that's my favorite thing in the world. So, yeah.
So, let me ask you, what is something you're really hoping to see in this upcoming Scream movie?
I'm dying to just see how life has moved the trio forward. I'm dying to see the family connection between Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. I'm interested to see like just what these new filmmakers are bringing to the project and how they bring this to life. You know what I mean? I'm interested to see the tone. I'm interested to see how it ends, like how final the movie ends. I'm just but more than anything, like what I want this movie to be very respectful to the legacy and the legacy cast. Like that's my do or die. Like if I feel Sidney, Gaylor, Dewey are shortchanged in any way, I will leave being very disgusted. But I don't think that's going to happen. So
it will be very interesting to see if they try to make the movie like Wes Craven or if they will take a risk and try to make it their own thing. You know what I mean? Because there's with any kind of property that has a big fan base, you want to remain loyal to what made the originals so good, but you also want to add in your own thing to make it like, well, I'm not just trying to rip off Wes Craven. I want to put a little bit of my own self and my own artistic view into it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going in for hoping, is that the surviving characters in this movie, the surviving new ones, are interesting enough characters where I'd be okay with seeing a Scream movie without the big three.
Even just hearing those words breaks my heart, even though I know it's going to happen at some point. You know what I mean? The thing is, this movie is also, I can sense it. There's going to be some big moves that happen here. Like, Scream 4, for all of the buildup, all like 10 years later, and for all of the buildup and anticipation to that, there weren't a lot of big risks taken in Scream 4. Scream 4 ends up being very safe. And I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think what this movie is going to do is, I think Radio Silence, Matt, Tyler, Chad, and the writers, they are starting fresh, and they are going to thus make similar big moves that the original trilogy made and like make it their own, like you guys are saying. And I don't think they are imitating Wes Craven. I think they want to honor him in every way possible, but they're not trying to be him. And I think that comes out in all of the footage that's released, like the types of shots that they have, like the cinematography stuff that Wes never really did, but it still kind of like alludes to him in a way. I think that like the approach that they've had, again, has been very humble, and I think it's going to translate in the movie. One
thing I'll something that you kind of touched on a little bit earlier that will be interesting to see if it carries over, especially in today's era, is I think you said you had done an episode about feminism in the Scream.
Oh yeah.
And while I was watching the last one, 3, I was texting Dave. I was like, man, Sydney's like getting in some punches here. She, from where she was in the first one to third one, she's like taking charge and like getting stuff done.
Oh yeah. Sydney in Scream 3, like this is, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, because I think if you ask a lot of like the diehard fans, they would probably agree with you, or at least understand where you're coming from. Sydney in Scream 3 is like my ultimate, like my favorite performance, my favorite character of any, like my favorite, like.
She was very much taking charge of her own stuff. Of her life, because you figure she has been through 2 movies of this before where she's been stalked, and you figure that what Billy did to her was such a violation, and that by 3 she's like making her own decision. She's charging headfirst into danger, trying to be the one who's saving people.
And not only that, but she's dealing with trauma in Scream 3. Like, she's dealing with her mother, like, a lot of unresolved issues about her mother. She is dealing with, like, and I feel like I often refer to Sydney in Scream 3 as, like, the final girl.
That's kind of what I was thinking in my head when I was watching. I was like, this is kind of like she's turned into a very good final girl by 3.
Well, she's so strong and so smart. Like she takes every single precaution to protect herself that she doesn't really in the first two. You know, she's not at the birthday party at the end. You know, she is in the police station where her ass should be. You know what I mean? To be safe. And she has to actively make that choice to go and save Gale and Dewey at the end. And she is so, you know, she has two guns. You know, she has the bulletproof vest. You know, in the stab 3 chase scene, you know, she knows that the killer is going to try to come into her bedroom, so she hides there and throws him down onto the bed. Like, and that's kind of how she wins in the end. You know, she outsmarts Roman, the killer, by, you know, dialing him, you know, to know where he is in the room to stab him. Like she is like she materializes into like the ultimate final girl in 3.
So I wonder if they're going to lean into that a lot more with this new Scream, because nowadays we're living in a time where Hollywood is very much trying to push like stronger female leads.
Mm-hmm. See, I have a theory. I think this new Scream movie, I think it's gonna be the first one where we have two female Ghostface working together.
You're gonna pull off the Ghostface, and it's gonna be Sydney under it.
No,
no.
Please God, no.
I know that would be horrible, but that's all I kept thinking in my mind is like, would they do that? They wouldn't do that,
No.
would they?
They wouldn't. I like that idea of two female Ghostface. Like I was actually flirting with that idea back before we even had a trailer, but you know, if I had to take a guess, like I don't think that's what's going to happen. But from what I've heard from people who have seen it or whatever else, is that Sydney and Gale are both very badass in this, even more so than they were previously. I don't buy that completely because you can't get more badass than Sydney in Scream 3. But I think she's going to be highly charged badass, especially if what motivates them, I think, is going to it's going to incentivize the badassness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, now that Sydney is a mom, she has even more of a reason to push to live and fight. So,
can I make I have to come clean. I haven't seen a single of the Scream new trailers. I just know Scream. Okay. I just know Scream 5 is coming out. I have not seen a single trailer for it. So I don't know. I felt like confessing that for some reason, just right now that we're talking all this Scream, but I still haven't seen any of the trailers for it.
I've only watched the first trailer.
Oh wow, gosh!
I don't want to see too much and have it be ruined or something like that.
When you said that she was a mom, I was like, is that in the trailer, or because I haven't seen 4 yet?
No, so that's not in 4. She's not a mom in 4. But she is. It is shown in the trailer that she has a stroller, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited to see how they handle Sydney's personal life because I kind of have an insight to who she is married to.
Is it Detective Kincaid?
Yes, at least that's it's left kind of open to the audience. But from what from a rumor that I've been told by several people is that her husband is referred to as Mark. We never see her husband, but it's inferred that it's Detective Kincaid, which makes me so happy.
I was getting that. Yeah. I was getting those vibes when I saw them like together in his police station. I was like, these two seem. He's so dark and brooding.
Well. And the thing I love about Detective Kincaid and Sydney is they have that really intimate scene. Like that's actually one of my favorite scenes in the series. It's so, you know, if you think about it, there's not really plot happening. It's just the characters developing and going deeper and kind of forming a connection. And like, we don't get that in big, you know, studio movies that much anymore.
Especially slashers.
Yeah. And and the fact that they both have these dark pasts, I think makes them understand each other. And in a way that she couldn't with, say, Derek from Scream 2. So because he was so optimistic and he had a different life experience. So I actually think they would make a good, sensible couple in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a lot of movies, they tend to forget that some of the best scenes are the quieter moments when there's not all the action on the screen and when it's quiet and stuff that is said sometimes versus what is not said or just how it's said. Yeah, when just that short little 3-4 minutes when they were in the police station talking back and forth, I was like, these two have good chemistry together. These two it's kind of like they get each other.
And that's something that the original trilogy did really well. You know, and that's something that I love Scream 4. I think it is a total blast. But I don't think it really fits in with the arc of the original trilogy or the tone or the style in a lot of ways. Scream 4 is its own thing. It's trying to appeal to a younger audience, back in 2011. That's what its goal was. And it doesn't have like those moments of character development that make the original three so special. Like all three of the first, the original films have those moments that you're talking about, and those are some of my favorite scenes, out of the whole series. And that's really what makes those first three really special, in my opinion.
Now, here's something I will ask for both of you, actually, you and Dave. You guys love the original trilogy, but at the same time, we're also movie reviewers. Are there some things that you think that could have been improved in the trilogy that you think that may have missed the mark?
Do you want to go first, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, everything kind of has room for improvement. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect movie. Other than the first Scream, I feel like that one, don't touch. Scream 2, I think, have a little bit more of Mickey before his Ghostface reveal, because you don't see him for about 45 minutes up to his reveal. In Scream 3, I feel like it pushed, a second Ghostface narrative, and there's some times where it seems like they probably needed to Ghostface get accomplished things, so a second reveal would have been nice there.
I kind of disagree with that. Because like the first two have two killers, I like that Scream 3 only has one, and I don't think you would get the same effect in the finale of Scream 3, if you would have had two killers, because there's such an intimate, like, because it's one-on-one. It's Sydney meeting this, Roman. She's never met Roman before, but he's her brother. Like, that's powerful. And that just, you get that brutal fight with them. And like the fact that she holds his hand, like, I don't think you would have been able to achieve that momentum or that dramatic effect if you were balancing another killer in the mix.
I liked that hand-holding thing.
Yeah.
Like that. I didn't know how to feel about it, but I was like, I don't know. I kind of like that, though. I don't know what it makes me feel, but I like it.
Well, that's actually my single favorite moment in any of the four Scream movies. I just think it's so beautiful. There's so much layered. There's so many layers in that single, like, 10 seconds. And it's just so beautiful how Wes composes it with the cinematography and the music and the acting. Like, it's absolutely amazing. So.
Still love Sydney's face when Roman reveals himself. She's like, "Who the hell are you? What did I do to you?"
Well, if I could revise a couple of things, like there are some things, like for instance in Scream 1, like all four movies have their flaws. Like I'm not going to pretend that one's perfect. Like for instance, I hate Ghostface in the bushes and following her in the supermarket. Like I hate it so much in the original film. Scream 2.
Forgot about that part. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense. Yeah. Scream 2 is a bit long, like in the middle. I think that there are some things they could have done to kind of tighten it a little bit. And the third movie, I really love the third movie. It is my favorite. I wish, though, that there's the sequence at Jennifer's house, like at the beginning of the second act. It's about 10 minutes long. I wish that they would have either gutted it or just revised it, because it's the one part of the movie that I can't defend with my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like who put open the gas line, because Roman wasn't there.
Well, it was Roman, because like there is only one killer there, and in Scream 3. But because he was released from, he was interviewed by the cops and released, so it's logically it skims by, but I think that could have been improved. So
yeah.
I will say this at the end of Scream 3. At the end of Scream 3, it's still Sydney was having to yell to Dewey, aim for the head. Like, this is your third rodeo, man? Come on, like, aim for the head first.
Yeah, even Randy told you shooting him in the body isn't going to work.
But usually I would hate that trope of, oh, and it turns out it was her evil brother, it was the evil sibling, but I was telling Dave, I was like, the whole genius thing about that is that I would usually hate a horror movie for doing that trope, but that's kind of the point of the Scream franchise, is that they poke fun at movie tropes.
Mm-hmm.
So getting mad at that, it kind of makes no sense, because that's what the Scream franchise does.
And Scream, like the original Scream, was so much of the DNA of that movie is shared with Halloween. Like, because Kevin Williamson's favorite film was Halloween, so he drew on Halloween a lot when writing that first movie. And I think they ended the original trilogy by bringing it back to Halloween in a way, because Laurie and Michael in the original Halloween movies, they were brother and sister. So I think that was just like a nice way of paying respect to Halloween now that the series and the story has come full circle.
You know what I'd like to hear, Dave? Because one of our episodes of the last season was a thing called Rewrites, where we gave each other a movie and had to do a specific rewrite, and he had for me to write Halloween as if it were directed by Wes Craven.
Oh.
I'd kind of like to hear what your take would have been on that if he gave you that assignment. Well, I'm not saying now, but I'm just saying. I was just saying it's funny that we're mentioning Halloween and Wes Craven stuff.
If I'm actually going to be controversial, I'm like I would just I can respond to that real quick. I think the idea is interesting. I think that Wes wouldn't. Wes Craven is my favorite man in the entire world. And he's like my grandfather. But I don't know if he would have been the right choice for Halloween. I think Wes Craven is really good with energy and like creating momentum in his scenes. Like, I just think I don't know if he would have been the right choice for telling that quieter story, if that makes sense.
Oh, the point of the rewrite session was just to have fun with it, because I gave him one where he had to make a horror movie where it was 13 Ghosts directed by Adam Sandler.
Okay.
Stuff that makes no sense, but we just thought it would be interesting to just like pitch those different ideas.
Nice.
He had to completely change Michael Myers to fit more of like a Wes Craven type.
He was more
killer,
verbal and he had more of a personality and stuff like that. And that was a fun thing. I just wanted to bring that up because we were talking about Wes Craven and Halloween now. And I thought it would have been just an interesting thing to throw in there.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, which Ghostface is your favorite Ghostface throughout the series?
To be honest, I actually think this is like one of the good things about the series overall so far. I'm saying this without having seen the fifth movie. I genuinely like or love all of the Ghostface killers except for Charlie in Scream 4. I think he's fine. But he's easily the blandest. But the other six, I love them. Yeah, the motives are great. The performances are great. The connections to Sydney are great. I just, and they're each so different. Like it's, I will say Roman is my favorite for all the reasons I said before. Like the fight that they have, the connection, the hand holding. And I think Roman is like the most clever and the smartest, like in terms of organizing everything. And I love the fact that Roman, like his motive went so deep that he didn't want to just kill Sydney. He wanted to take away her reputation from her. What he was really jealous of was, not only that Sydney got the mother that he didn't, but Sydney also got this, all this fame and adoration from the public. And he didn't, while he was still struggling to make himself a known person as a director. So like what his motive was, it wasn't just to kill her. He wanted to take something from her. He felt like she robbed him. He wanted to rob her. And I find that to be so deep. But I love Jill. I love Billy. I love Mrs. Loomis. I love them all. So
I gotta say, but the second one, I love the second Ghostface just because I'm a big fan of Timothy Olyphantastic.
He's awesome.
I'd say Stu's probably my favorite. Just the energy. I know he's Billy's lackey, but the energy he has, he just seems to be enjoying it up until the point where, shit hits the fan. What's your motive? You're pressured and sensitive. One of the best lines in the entire franchise.
I think Stu enjoys it up until the very end. Even until like right before he dies. I think he's still like having a sick old time with it. I always had a thing for you, Sid.
Yeah, like when he's explaining the entire plan to her, he's having a blast.
Yeah,
he looks like he's just having so much fun. Like he's just playing in the park.
Real quick questions here. I usually random questions come to mind during these interviews, but to go back to the new movie that's coming out right now, and we mentioned what we would like to see. What is something that you're like, you go to watch it and you're like, all right, I can handle if they change a couple of things, but for God's sakes, don't do this. Is there anything that you are dreading that you like in the back of your mind, you're like, please do not do this if you're going to make this movie?
Dave, do you want to go first? I need a second to think about this.
Sorry, it's an impromptu question, but I figure the opposite side of what you're looking forward to and what you're dreading if they do something.
If you're going to kill one of the big three, don't give them a bad death scene like they did with Laurie Strode in Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah, that's an obvious one.
Or what they did. Well, a lot of people also said the problem with Jamie Lee Curtis in the last Halloween is that they just pushed her off to the side for the entire movie.
Yeah, that would be my problem. If they do that with, and I honestly, this is a fear, and I know this sounds really silly, but it's almost an anxiety of mine. Like, I'm not expecting Sydney and Gale to really be super involved in the narrative in the first half, which really I don't love, but I'm just afraid that they won't have the screen time that they deserve. So that's a big fear of mine. Another fear is like, I just want them to get the tone right. Like, I feel like, I love Scream 4, but the tone, it wasn't the same as the original trilogy. And like, again, it's a blast on its own, but I kind of want the tone to come back to what it was in the first three, where it's dark and emotional as well as funny, but but rather than a horror comedy, if that makes sense, which I think Scream 4 was.
Yeah, I really hope they do get this balance right of giving us time to get to know the new characters who are going to, carry on the franchise, and giving the big three the respect that they deserve.
Yeah.
I do think that as of right now, if I were to guess, if I were to put money on it, if they were going to kill off one of the three, it would probably be Dewey. I don't know why.
It makes sense. Like, think about it, like, from both.
He is in that line of duty.
Well, but also think about this, because the first summer of COVID, I actually wrote my own treatment, my own fan script, kind of, because I was that bored. And actually, if you take Dewey out of the equation, just think about the way of the ripple effect. It really pushes the plot forward on its own without it being forced, because if Dewey dies, Dewey is somebody who is very special to both Sydney and Gale, and that motivates them in specific ways. If Dewey dies, it's, he used to be the sheriff of Woodsboro. That's a big deal. If the ex-sheriff is murdered, it also affects Judy Hicks, one of the other survivors. So it's a very smart thing to do narratively.
Yeah.
I hope he goes out in a blaze of glory.
Well, he's also, and I'm not like throwing any shade because I love David. Everybody loves David and Dewey. But if you ask people who their favorite member of the trio is, it's usually a 50-50 split between Sydney and Gale, and almost nobody says Dewey.
I told Dave the second we got on this thing, I was like, I love Dewey. Dewey's my guy.
Aw.
Well, see, there you go. Dewey
I'm going to be the lone guy on the side rooting for Dewey.
Yeah, I'm a Sydney person.
Well, get this. I will share this because people can listen to this on my show. But on my show, I have it's called a Scream speed round where I have 12 questions and people are just supposed to, I ask the question, you're supposed to instantly respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. The first question is always, who's your favorite member of the trio? So in my interview with Tyler and Chad and Matt, of course I asked them, and I didn't realize how awkward and uncomfortable it would put them in because they all worked with these actors,
Yeah.
You're trying to burn bridges already? Trying to destroy friendships?
Yeah.
Well, and I did this to Marianne, and Marianne, she didn't pick anybody because she worked with them, for literally 15 years. So she just said she loved them all. But Tyler and Chad both picked Dewey, and Matt picked Sydney. So I was surprised that they were so forceful with Dewey. But so yeah.
Yeah, Dewey's my guy, but I crush on Gale. So
who doesn't crush on Gale? For real.
Because she's always going to be Monica to me from Friends. so I'm not used to seeing her act so mean sometimes.
I don't know. Her bangs in Scream 3 were terrible, though.
I can get over it.
They, the thing is, I'm not saying they're aesthetically pleasing, but because people have just shit on them for the past, 10 years, really. They've never been popular, but I feel like they became like an internet meme kind of over the past 10 years. I feel like it's almost like the fact that they're ugly, like that doesn't matter anymore. They're kind of iconic now because it's kind of a joke, you know what I mean? And like there's almost respect that should be paid to the Bangs because everyone has made fun of them. Even Courtney herself hasn't made fun of them, you know what I mean? So it's good.
So that shows you can go so far in one direction that it just comes around the other end.
Yeah, for real.
So Dave was really trying to push Scream 3. He says that I was going to really look forward to Scream 3 when I got to it. But when I watched it and I did some review for it, that's actually the lowest rated of the original trilogy. Actually, the lowest rated of the 4 that are out, at least according to Rotten Tomatoes. Do you think there's a reason for that? Or what do you think what's the reason why people give it like it's the least highly rated? Because I enjoyed it. I thought it kept with the tone. I thought it was perfectly fine.
I could literally write like a series of books about this exact topic, but there's a lot of reasons, and most of them are very unfair. First of all, this is the first, like, for reasons beyond the control of anybody back then, Kevin Williamson was not able to write it. So a lot of people went in with like their knives out that like, because Kevin didn't write this, we are opposed to this because they were so attached to his signature style of the first two. I think a lot of people are just kind of closed-minded to the fact that like, I feel like once something gets a bad reputation, people see it through a negative lens, and that just gets regurgitated because people are hard on the third movie about, say, plot holes or inconsistencies that they ignore in the original, in the other films. Like, it's not fair, and they don't like. I don't think that a lot of the arguments against Scream 3 are very logical. They don't really, take the time to look at what's good and what's bad. Like, if you're telling me you despise Scream 3, with everything you have, but you can't like appreciate like the artistry of what happens like whenever Sydney gets chased in the Stab 3 set, or even the ending where she opens up the gate. You know what I mean? Like how, like, you're not really engaging with the material. You're just having a very set mindset. Not, people say it's too comedic. People don't like the lack of blood. Like I can understand the lack of blood, but at the same time, I think Scream 3 gets away with it because there is
plenty of comedy in it.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, it's just, it's a very sensitive subject for me because I love the third movie so much, and I wish people would give it a second chance. And that's something I do with my show is I really give Scream 3 the fair shot that it deserves.
That's exactly what I said. That's the same thing that I said with Season of the Witch.
Yeah, we were on defending Halloween Season of the Witch.
Yeah, when I was defending Halloween 3. I mean, I didn't say I loved it, but I was like one of the few people who was out there defending it, saying it was a good movie.
Well, and again, that's actually kind of similar because if you think about it, like fans of the first two were, so attached to, what the first two were doing, and they had a hard time adjusting to what the third movie was offering. And if you look at the movie now, Halloween Season of the Witch, people love Season of the Witch now.
It has a larger cult following now. But I do come across a lot of people who do jump on the bandwagon of there's no Michael Myers in it.
And but the thing is, like, in Scream 3 is kind of similar in a way because it is about the Me Too movement in a way. Like it predicted the Harvey Weinstein of it all.
I think the main guy was kind of trying to tell us something there.
He was.
And that's why I said, and even that was 20, and that came out in 2000. So 22 years later, that movement has only grown.
Well, and the thing is, like, Scream 3, like, at the end of the day, too, like, I can argue and win the arguments, but I can't really change hearts and minds. Like, I think some things in Scream 3 are just controversial. Like, people either love or hate the fact that it's set in Hollywood. They love or hate the brother twist. They love or hate the voice changer.
The whole Hollywood thing is something that I noticed. A lot of slasher movies were doing that because Resurrection, or was Resurrection the one where it was the reality TV show with Halloween?
Yep.
Seed of Chucky. You had I had written a couple down, but the slashers. That was an era where a lot of slashers were taking their stuff to Hollywood and making fun of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was the only franchise to be doing that. It was just a popular thing that was going on at the time to be for Hollywood to be kind of very self-aware of the stuff and making fun of it.
Plus, the supporting characters in Scream 3 are amazing. Jennifer
Yeah.
Jolie, love her. Patrick Warburton playing Stephen Stone
That
was
that made me
awesome.
laugh.
Detective Wallace was funny.
Well, and like, Scott Foley playing Roman, you have Patrick Dempsey playing Kincaid. Like these are people, before they really got famous, doing like Grey's Anatomy and Scandal, you know what I mean? They were here and they did this amazing work. And I mean, Parker Posey's performance is literally, I think, one of the most creative performances ever done on film.
It's my favorite part of the
Screenplay.
movie. Like, she's so good.
It's wild. Like, I don't know how somebody is so creative to think of these types of actory things. You know what I mean? Like, it's so creative.
And actually, in Scream 3, it's the only time that's not in a deleted scene where anybody mentions Tatum's death. And it's
Yeah.
mentioned by Stephen Stone, out of all people, right before he gets stabbed.
Yeah. What a dick.
Right?
I didn't realize exactly how many people I knew when I was watching Scream 2 and 3 and like all the because I tend to forget that Scream 1 was such a big deal that they started casting like big name actors. I mean that had to have been Scream 1 had one of those things where I wish that I was a teenager back when this thing was big, but killing off Drew Barrymore in the very, very beginning, when killing off the person who was on the front page of the posters within the first 10 minutes of the movie had to have been like such a jaw-dropping experience for the people in the theater.
Oh, yeah. And that's kind of the signature famous thing about Scream, about the original Scream, is that people still talk about it today. And, and even besides that, it's just such a great scene. It's people, for Drew Barrymore's 10 minutes of screen time, she's probably just as infamous as the trio.
Yeah. And it seems like in the new one, Jenna Ortega, they're kind of like mirroring that scene with her from what I've seen in the preview. So I'm excited to see what direction that goes in.
Totally.
Also, I kind of hope someone calls Dewey Dewdrop.
Oh, same. Every time there's like a new, when I talk about Dewey to my friends, like my Scream friends, I refer to him as Dewdrop. So yeah.
Yeah, that was just great on Steven. So, okay, Dewdrop.
Oh my goodness.
So who is your favorite supporting character throughout the franchise so far?
Jennifer from Scream 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a toss-up between Jennifer and Tatum for me.
Well, on my show, I actually have a question. It's because I feel like people love Kirby from Scream 4 and they love Jennifer from 3. I should have included Tatum because she's in the club too, but I always ask people who do you prefer out of like the fan favorites, Kirby or Jennifer? And it's usually a 50-50 split. So, but I actually did a whole episode on Tatum because she is one of the most popular characters in the series too.
Yeah. Plus Rose McGowan in like the late 90s, early 2000s. It's probably one of my favorite actresses out with Charmed, Ready to Rumble.
Yeah, and Jawbreaker.
I have not seen that movie in forever.
It's a blast. Yeah.
I guess I have two last questions on my end. One's just a fun one, and one's just a. So now, is Scream your favorite horror movie?
Yeah, I would say the original trilogy is my favorite as a unit, my favorite movie.
Are you usually in the camp of, because I had brought up last year had a lot of remakes and a lot of like Candyman had a new movie. The next Halloween Kills came out. Then Saw had another one come out there, and now Scream is getting a sequel. Are you in the camp of I think they should leave them alone, or do you groan when you hear like an older franchise is getting a reboot or a sequel?
I definitely don't groan, especially anymore. Maybe like back in my like snobbier film critic artsy fartsy days, I did, but like I think Halloween really changed the ballgame. Because like for instance, I prefer the Halloween 2 H2O kind of timeline to the new one, but still, I think I became very humble about what the horror genre is doing with Halloween 2018, where it's something different, and just be open-minded to it, and you can kind of go along for the ride and just relive all of this nostalgia and everything you love about the originals. So I'm actually of the opinion that I think it's a good thing to have reboots and sequels like this. Like I think Candyman was a good example. I think Scream is a good example. I think if Marvel can have 25, 30 movies about the same characters over and over again, why can't we have this do the same thing with horror movies?
I guess my only stipulation is, I guess, because my favorite movie is Back to the Future, and if I heard that they were rebooting Back to the Future, initially I would groan, but my only stipulation is I would want it to be remade by a fan.
Right, like Scream is.
Yeah,
exactly.
It would have to be remade by somebody who loves the franchise and thinks, you know what, I think I can do it justice and add my own little bit of creative view to it. But a lot of these you see are as blatant cash grabs, and it just depresses me when I see something that could have had potential if given to a person who actually cared.
Yeah, like Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Which had potential.
Well, I love that franchise. Did not like the remake. I really hope they just kind of leave it alone.
I actually like it a little bit more than most people do, but I do know they dropped the ball in a lot of places where I think they could have branched off and made certain things their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the thing is back when the Nightmare remake came out, horror was in a different place too. I think if it were made today, it would be made by somebody like you're talking about, someone who is more of a fan and cares more and has more invested in here. So,
yeah, I just don't want to see anybody other than Robert Englund being Freddy.
I didn't even mind. I even think that Jackie Earle Haley was a really good choice for a replacement.
That's blasphemy.
I mean, if they were going to remake, and if Robert Englund wasn't going to do it, I thought that Jackie Haley was fine.
Yeah, that's why I just feel like it should just be left alone for now.
I think that eventually Freddy will come back. I think it's fine that he and Jason are sitting out right now. You know what I mean? I like that we're getting a different group of people. We're getting Michael, who is kind of in that group with them, but it's different because Jamie Lee Curtis is involved. But
they are kind of cycling through, like giving other ones a break, and like, all right, now Candyman hasn't been talked about for a while, so let's get Candyman. Let's do the Scream. Let's do
Chucky.
Yeah.
Chucky. Yeah, Chucky has a series now.
And even I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's not the same as the Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr. Movies, but they have their own show. Like, so it's there's a lot going on, and it's a lot of good stuff. But I would say this, because we never got a proper I Know What You Did Last Summer final movie with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. I would love if they would come back and make one, to reboot that.
You could easily do that.
That'd be great. Have you ever actually seen the third I Always Know What You Did Last Summer movie?
I did. It's awful.
Oh my god.
And I love the original. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar's chase scene in that is the best chase scene in the history of horror. And, so for them to go from that to the straight to DVD crap with new characters, like, fuck that shit. Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
You can curse.
Okay. Yeah, based on that, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any merit based on the rumor that Sarah Darling in Scream 3 was named after Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Oh,
and her
absolutely.
being a problem on set on Scream 2?
It's not that, like, I think that Sarah Michelle Gellar was a problem. I just think, Sarah is, because she's my favorite actress, but the Scream sets, especially the sequels, were very chaotic. There were re-rates every day. And Sarah, she, doing a TV show like Buffy 7 days a week, it's very structured, and she's a very disciplined actor. She also has a very strong personality. So I just think she didn't like that type of chaos, and she didn't like, and she didn't mesh with the style of making a Scream movie, and that's fine, and I do think it's the character is based on her. Not that Sarah Darling's dumb, but I do think because Sarah Michelle Gellar is very smart, but I do think that attitude about, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I can't even do my job here. I think that's from her for sure. So
Dave, you mind if I bring this to kills real quick?
Yeah.
Since we're coming upon the top of the hour.
All right.
So what we like to do near the end of these things is, in this case, since I haven't seen the fourth one, let's stick to the original trilogy. We'd like to do kill of the movie, in this case, kill of the trilogy. What's your favorite kill of any of the Scream 1 through 3?
So, of course, the right answer to this question is Casey Becker, Drew Barrymore. But I I will say, Jennifer's death in Scream 3 is one of my favorites, just because she kind of grows to be a part of the main gang in a way, and I just love that. I love that. I love the set piece. I love her running up the staircase and through the back passageway, and like the two-way mirrors. I just think there's so much energy and momentum to that scene with Dewey shooting the gun. Like I love it. So
Yeah, and she's screaming, "I'm supposed to be the killer," as she's dying.
get away from me! You don't scare me. Like it's just so. In the imagery in that scene Wes creates with the cinematography is very frightening. The way that the killer walks toward her and like the shadows, like it's a great scene.
Yeah.
What about you there, Dave?
Like, obviously, it's Casey Becker, but put that one out there. I'm gonna have to go with Tatum. Just that whole scene is incredible. First, she thinks it's a joke, and then when she realizes it isn't, she actually, puts up quite a fight before her ultimate demise. And the fact that right before she died, she calls out for her mom. Nice touch on that scene.
I think that my favorite third act was in the second one that took place on that stage. I love Sydney using the stage as a weapon, basically, and just to attack. So it'll be one of the. I'll just go ahead and say. I'll say Timothy Oliphant's one after they shot Billy's mom, and then they're like, all right, they always come back, and I was like, oh yeah, he's here. He jumps from the back, and then they plug him full of holes a bunch of times. But just because that whole scene is probably my favorite third act of the three that I've seen so far, taking place on that set stage.
Oh yeah, I love the part like where Mickey plays that mind game with Sydney right before shooting Derek. Oh, you don't want to untie him. She just I've been working with someone.
Poor Sydney. Her first boyfriend was Billy. Her second one, his last dying thing, she thought that he was the killer, and he gets shot. And, poor Sydney just gets it so bad.
But great character development, though.
Oh yeah, that scene, like Derek's death, is one of I think probably the single most saddest scene of the entire series.
He genuinely loved her.
Yeah,
he genuinely loved her, and Sydney was really put in between a rock and a hard place, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Sydney gets to see another person she loves and that loved her dies right in front of her.
His last words was, "I would never hurt you."
Yeah.
And I know I love that. I love that phrasing. I've never actually heard it that way, but and I may use that. I'll give you a shout out on my show. The fact that she uses the stage as a weapon, it's epic. I love that. So my favorite finale is 3, but 2 is my second favorite. I just love the way the stage crashing down on Mrs. Loomis and the fist fight. It's great. And the axe, Sydney has the axe. I love it.
It's great. That was the first time you could tell she's taking control. She has an axe. She's using the environment to her advantage. And I'm a sucker for stage plays anyway. So the fact that the whole thing was just being used as one big weapon. She has the sandbags falling down. She has the truss with lights falling down. It was just, I was just like, wow, this is I'm all about this right now.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I know you haven't seen Scream 4, but that is probably my favorite ending. Because I feel like Emma Roberts, incredible acting in that
Emma Roberts is in this?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And it's funny. She's very funny. It's like a tour de force. Yeah.
I like it. But Emma Roberts from American Horror Story, right?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, you sold me already. I like Emma Roberts. So
yeah, and it has Hayden Panettiere in it, and she is great.
I like her
Kirby.
too.
Yeah.
All right. So I like. All right. You sold me. I know what I'm doing as soon as we're done.
Like that scene between Kirby and Trevor right before everything happens, where he's like, "Oh, I was about to go down between you and Charlie." No fucking way. She's just like, "Get out of my house."
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was a lot of fun, and I thank you again for taking the time to come on our show, talk a little bit about Scream.
Yeah, it was awesome. We really appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a great time. Thank you guys for arranging this.
And before we sign off, do you have anything that you would like to plug or anything that's coming up that you might want people to know about?
I just, if you like horror movies, if you like Scream, you should be listening to my show. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Scream with RCS, and my podcast name is Scream with Ryan C. Showers. And listen to my show every week. I really put a lot of effort into making it like an experience for Scream fans every week. So
yeah, don't listen to the Body Bag podcast. Go and watch his. Go and listen to his.
Well, listen to both, but
listen to both.
I'm a fan of the Scream podcast. Since I started arranging this, I've been listening. It is a great podcast. Definitely recommend it.
But this was a very good start. You were our first guest of our second season, and this was definitely a blast. So yeah, thank you again.
I'm the season 2 premiere. Wow.
Yeah, you're the season 2 premiere of second season. Our very first guest, which Dave, do you want to say who people can look forward to coming up next week?
We should be having Alex James from the Woodsboro podcast coming on next week.
And we'll be talking some more about Scream, right?
Yep. With the new one coming out, it's going to be a lot of Scream coming up.
So we can talk more about 4 as well, since I'll have seen it by then.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we thank you again, Ryan Showers, for coming on the show. And we thank you out there, all of our listeners. Please like, comment. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at BodyBagPod. And
Bodybag Pod on Twitter, Bodybag Podcast on Instagram.
And, let us know what you want us to talk about. We do rewrites, we do movie reviews, we do versus battles.
So we're excited for season 2, and everybody have a great week.